Hey everybody, good morning. Welcome to Talk Visual 305, another episode. We've got a special guest in the building today. This young lady has done amazing things throughout her short life. I mean, she's only 25 years old, has traveled around the world and has seen some very interesting things. The travel that she's done is probably more than most of us will do in our lifetime, but she is here with us today to share her experience. Please help me give a warm welcome to Sasha. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
So many interesting things that you've done in your life, and this podcast is about, helping the next generation understand some of the great things that people in this community have done. So if anybody in the audience is out there interested in maybe pursuing the same thing, you could shed some light on that. So tell us a little bit about you. Tell us about where you went to school, where do you live, how you made it to Homestead, the whole nine.
Gotcha. So I grew up in Miami. For the beginning part of my life, I was in Homestead.
Okay.
And then my parents separated and I moved around Palmetto Bay area.
Okay.
And from there, I actually, in my seventh grade of I was in middle school and I moved to Paris, France with my mom. She was moving out there. Yeah.
Okay.
And that was my first taste of getting completely away from where I grew up, and I was obsessed with it. I didn't know how to speak the language very well, so that was a huge challenge for me at first. But I managed to work through that, and I had a lot of help from great teachers that were really in my corner and wanting me to succeed. And I came back from Paris my junior year of high school.
So you left? What grade did you leave?
Seventh grade.
Seventh grade, and you came back your junior. So you spent a good amount of time in Paris.
Yeah, it was 3.5 years.
So it's a huge culture shock.
It was.
Right?
I mean, my parents are French. My entire family is. So I had that at least, where I had like a really big French background that influenced my upbringing. So it wasn't a culture shock like I had experienced when I went to Africa, obviously. But it was still crazy to go through all of the language barrier challenges, and I was in a French-speaking school. I wasn't in an American school over there, so it was getting used to the language, but also the school system is very different.
Yeah.
There's no such thing as multiple choice over there, so going from an American school system that is heavily reliant on that versus their system, which is essays, even in math classes. So it was a big adjustment, but then I came back to the States, back in Miami, finished my last 2 years of high school and went to Florida State at the end of it.
I'm a big fan of Florida State. One of my best friends is a graduate from Florida State, and I spent some time at Florida State, so I'm a big Seminole fan, so congrats on that.
Thank you. Love the school.
When you were in France for the first time, because I know a lot of people have a hard time with being homesick, how long did it take you to kind of settle in to the new culture?
It didn't feel like settling in a way, because I was super excited.
Yeah.
I think the only moment of panic I had was right the night before my first day of school, because I was like, I'm going in, I don't know anyone, I barely know the language very well. It was really nerve-wracking. And I think that was where I was like, I wish I could be back in Miami right now in my own comfort of what I'm used to, what I grew up with. And after that initial first day, it seemed to just be going with I'm meeting new people, I'm making friends, this is fun. It wasn't until the very last year that I was there that I wanted to come back to the States, where I felt more homesick. And I was like, well, it's been a long time now.
Right.
I see my friends back in the States, they're driving their car, they're they're doing all of the things that you would see at least in my head in movies kind of. And so I think it was also challenging school-wise in France, because we were about to take huge national exams, which I didn't feel super comfortable about. I had already done one of the national exams that you take it would be considered your freshman year of high school here.
Okay.
And then you have one your junior and senior year.
So equivalent to like an SAT or an ACT?
Something like that,
Okay.
but it tests you, it's like over many subjects, and my French writing was still not up to par. So when I was getting to my junior year, what would have been my junior year, it was just really stressful time because I was also in the science section, which is relatively like harder.
Yeah.
And so I was really having a tough time and wanted to get back on my thing.
So would you say it prepared you to come back and then finally graduate from high school?
Absolutely, especially when going into college. I think there's such a shift from high school teaching system to college, and I think that may be daunting to a lot of people, depending on which subject you're in. But I think it did prepare me a lot for college level classes.
Awesome.
Which was good.
And I know when anyone's looking for a job and you're meeting executives or recruiters or anything like that, they want to know what kind of extracurricular activities do you do? And your story pretty much would highlight you compared to anybody else that you're competing with and say, well, I've been to France and I spent, 7, 8 years in France and I learned their whole culture. Mm-hmm. So I think that really sets you up.
Right.
And it gives confidence. It gives you confidence too, right?
Yeah, it definitely did. But I also had a college counselor in high school that was an amazing person because coming from France, I didn't know anything about like AP classes, the extracurriculars needed to get into certain colleges because France, they didn't have that in their school systems. It wasn't set up to be competitive for, I think, American colleges.
Got it.
So the education system felt better in terms of like better suited for college.
Yeah.
But everything extra that a lot of American students do in high school, I didn't have. So without my college counselor, I think I would have been out of my depth a little bit. So it was really great to have that support and that kind of advice coming forward.
That is great. Okay, so you come back, you go to you graduate high school, go to Florida State.
Yes.
And then you decide on what you want to do in life, right?
Right.
Because most of the time you get into college, you don't know until your sophomore, junior year, but you already kind of had an idea.
I knew that I wanted to stay in science,
Yeah.
and my dad had always brought up the idea of medicine, but I was like, I'm going to figure it out on my own. I'm not going to do medicine because you keep telling me to do it. So I ventured off on my own and I stuck to a bio major, and I felt like that kept a lot of doors open if I wanted to do research, which I originally thought was my course of action, or it could shift to other things, but I knew it was going to be in science, so that kind of set me up to be like not closing myself off.
Got it.
And then I really loved neuroscience. I thought it was a cool subject, so I switched my major to cell and molecular neuroscience, which is a lot smaller in Florida State, so it felt like I had more time with like college counselors, or just more like centralized learning towards me. And that's when I was in a research lab, so I was conducting research for HIV-1 transfection. And that was really great. I loved it.
That was cool. You enjoyed going to the lab.
I loved it. Yeah, exactly. So I really did have a lot of fun with that, and I had a great mentor to help guide me. And through that, I was like, something's missing. I think I might need to give medicine a go. Finally,
all right.
After I want to say it was in the end of my sophomore year of college. I was really confused. I was like, I don't think research is for me. And I have a journal. I've had a journal since I was in the 4th grade. And I'm like reading back to it actually. And I'm like, I was so confused. And I just wish I could go back and like hug her a little bit because she was just like, at that time, I really felt like I had no idea what I wanted to do. And so I felt like I should give medicine a try. And I did, and I got a hospital job. I was working in the surgical care unit and fell in love with it. I was like, this is it. My dad was right, actually. Like, I hate to say it, but he was right. And so I switched from going into research to medicine, which is where I'm at now.
So really interesting how being in medicine led you to want to travel abroad again. And you ultimately landed with Peace Corps, right?
Yeah.
That's something that I'm intrigued about, because a lot of people hear about Peace Corps and all the humanitarian things that they do around the world, but nobody truly understands what goes on behind the scenes. So I would love to understand from your perspective, what really happens? How did you get involved with the Peace Corps?
Okay. So that all started in high school. I actually wanted to do humanitarian work.
Yeah.
And so I thought that between my high school and college that I would do that. But it was just really hard to find something, especially right out of high school. You don't have like a lot under like skills and to work with. So it wasn't very easy to find something, especially a lot of the programs for humanitarian work you have to pay a lot of money for.
Yeah.
And it just wasn't aligning with what exactly like I wanted out of it. And so I did fall in Peace Corps, and I saw that it was a long commitment. It's 2 years.
Okay.
And I know that they're doing some adjustments to that where it could be shorter.
Yeah.
We don't know yet. But so that was something in the back of my head that I was like, you know what? Like I like what they stand for, and you're really immersing yourself in the culture that you're in, and that's what I was looking for, while also trying to have an impact. And so I always like, okay, like that's a long commitment, but maybe after college. And I put
So you just had it there. You had it sitting there. You compartmentalized it.
Right. And
you
I think
said,
also like the fear factor of like leaving for that long, it was easier for me to say, okay, like after college and not think about it. And then after college came.
because you really enjoyed the lab and medicine. And then how did the two kind of merge together? Peace Corps and, medicine, and saying, let me take this leap of faith here.
Right. Well, after college, I knew that especially even when I left my lab for HIV research, I still missed that part of like what I was doing over there. So it's not something that I was like, oh, I'm not interested in it anymore. I'm going to leave it be.
Okay.
So I wanted a little bit of both.
Yeah.
And so I knew also that the medical school applications, it's a long process. And once you get into medical school, it's a challenging program to get through.
Right.
So in that, I was like, okay, now I'm kind of like coming at the point where I graduated college. I always said that, I would give this a go after that. And so it was either start applying for medical school or try this out. And so I was just like, might as well try. And I know it was really scary. And personally, I thought that I wouldn't get in. I didn't think so. So that was like a reassuring, like, oh.
So it's like becoming a Navy SEAL kind of deal? Like you get selected out of a huge group of applicants?
I'm not entirely sure the people I was going against or like anything like that or how big their applicant pool was. I just really thought that it would take a lot to go, and I didn't find myself competitive enough to like go.
Okay.
So, and it was also a form of like reassurance to myself that it was like, yeah, but it's okay. Like I can apply, I won't get in.
Okay.
And then when I did, I remember I freaked out because I was like, this is great, but also, oh my gosh, I'm leaving for so long. And I found out that, you're by yourself in these communities. So I was like, I'm going to be all by myself in a very far out rural community. And
at this point you are 21?
No, I think I was 23 when I found out.
Okay.
Or turning 23, something like that, yeah.
Okay.
So I applied right after I graduated, and I moved home, or I went home for a vacation, and I applied at that point.
So for those out there that are interested in, getting involved with the Peace Corps, what is their initial step? Where do they go? Do they just Google Peace Corps and apply?
So I didn't know where to go from there. When I was like, okay, like Peace Corps, how should I like apply? How do I have the best chances? And so I spoke with a recruiter actually.
Okay.
And so they gave me a lot of advice on, how to look for what you want, or to showcase your application and how to like put your best foot forward. And they helped a lot, especially when I realized that I got an interview, which was very exciting. I reached out to the recruiter, and they were really supportive and also very helpful to help me. And they were like, we can do like a mock interview if you want. So they were super, super helpful. And some universities actually have recruiters like affiliated to them, I'm pretty sure. But I went directly through the Peace Corps website, found a recruiter. And so that was really helpful.
Okay.
And that was the initial step.
Yeah.
And then,
so you think there's no chance that I'm going to get, selected to be in the Peace Corps, but ultimately you put your name in the pot, and then you get that call, that email hey, you've been selected,
Right.
and now you're moving on to step 2, and you're like, oh my God, what's
Yeah,
where am I
exactly.
going,
No,
right?
yeah, and the first night when I found it out, I was actually like, I couldn't sleep. I was really panicking. It was like fight or flight because I'm like, oh my gosh, this is a really big commitment. But then the nerves settled and started the really grueling process of the medical and security clearances.
Okay.
Because it took me months, but it is such a long list of things to do.
Yeah.
The security clearance wasn't that difficult. It's just time consuming, so
Yeah.
it takes a long time before you hear a response back. The medical clearances, obviously they're sending you to very like remote places depending on the country, but so where medical like
So they just want to make sure you've got all of your tetanus shots, all of...
you have to do so many vaccinations. I had to get a yellow fever vaccination. You have to get mental like clearance as well. I'm pretty sure. And then you have to do like other things just to make sure you're entire like you're
Right.
very
That you're
healthy.
mentally and physically
Yes.
stable.
Or if there's anything that they need to know about and account for once you're like on the ground, that they'll be able to do that. So that's like where it all comes in. And I remember I was set to leave 2 weeks or it was less than a
Yeah.
month that I had basically before my departure date, and I still didn't have the medical or security clearance. And so they tell you, they're like, don't cancel your like don't sell your house, don't quit your job,
Right,
because
right.
like it's never sure. And so you could not pass medical.
So just to be clear,
And so I was freaking out a little bit.
after you get the initial email, you know, that you've been selected,
Right.
the medical and the mental clearance, is that a 2-month process, a 3-month process?
I think it's different for everyone. I had a lot of time between my departure date and when I got my acceptance, and then here are the next steps for the
Right.
clearances.
Right.
So it took me almost the whole time. I would say it was like 5 months
Okay.
or 6 months that it took me. But I know there are people that get responses and have to leave
Yeah.
like 2 months later, and I think that's also possible, but they might be more like adaptive to your
Yeah.
situation and may try to like expedite the process. At least for me, that wasn't the case.
Yeah.
So it took the whole time that I was, you know, waiting to leave, which was good at the end.
And do they give you a menu of places that you can go in the world, or do they say there is a need that we really want to address in this part of the world,
Right.
so this is where we're shipping you? Or how do they give you a chance?
Yeah, so it's very different depending on what you want out of it, I think, or what you're looking for.
Yeah.
There is an option to just be sent where you're needed most.
Okay.
And that's for people who don't really have a preference. For me, I think with the work that I was doing in college in HIV, I wanted to continue on that route.
Got it.
And I knew I wanted to be in Africa as well. So I was like, anywhere in Africa that leaves really like soon,
Yeah.
and that is working with HIV. And so that's where I landed. I landed in Eswatini, and I did the work looking myself. And going through all the listings on the website to see which matched up with what I wanted. And so I landed on Eswatini. I didn't even know Eswatini.
Where is
anything about
Eswatini on the map? What part of Africa is
it
that?
is a
Is that-
very, very small country in South Africa. So
Okay.
it shares a border with Mozambique, and then the rest of
Okay.
it is in South Africa.
Okay.
And so
So your experience
yeah.
when you get there, I mean, I'm sure that's another culture shock.
Yeah, it was. I think there was a lot of, in my head, I didn't know what to expect. And I think that I didn't want to think too much of it and
Yeah.
do too much research into what my situation would be like, because I didn't want to like preemptively freak myself out. It was more so I would much rather just close my eyes and see
Yeah.
when I get there
Yeah.
than worry myself before anything ever happened.
Okay.
So I was very like close your eyes and jump situation, which I think is like my course, like my approach in how I do things. But yeah, I was initially just really nervous, but I think we were meeting everyone in the States.
Yeah.
And that was the group that I was set to leave with. And so we were a group of 12. And meeting everyone and seeing their excitement to leave
Yeah.
and get going got me like worked up, and I was like, okay, like good, like this feels nice, like I feel like I can lean on people.
Yeah.
And it felt more of like a rush, like an excitement.
And were your colleagues all pretty much around the same age, or were there a variety of different age groups?
We were very similar in age, I think.
Yeah?
But compared to other groups, it ranges. I think it just depends on like your group that you enter with. Like the group after us was also kind of in a similar boat where most of them were around the same age.
Okay.
So I think it can just vary, and depending on the size of the group as well. Like our group was 12, but I know that the group that was entering into Lesotho around the same time, a few months after, they were 25.
Okay.
So I think it just varies by country, and there are countries that are more sought out after.
Yeah.
Like Thailand is a big one. Everyone wants to go over there. Like it's different areas in like Oceania. So I think it just depends on.
So then, what was a
group.
day in the life after you're there? What was a typical day? What do you do? What time do you
Right.
wake up? Where do you go? What is your core
I woke
function?
up a lot earlier than I would in the States because everyone wakes up at like 5 a.m. So I wouldn't wake up that early, but it was still quite early. And especially because it was like cold in the morning or cooler.
Yeah.
So Eswatini and I was in a very hot area of the country.
Okay.
So summertime was blistering hot, and I'm in a tin roof little like house. No kind of insulation, ventilation, or anything like that.
So it's scorching in there.
So it was like I felt like a rotisserie chicken if I was sitting in there during summer months. So I would wake up early, usually make my coffee. We didn't have, I would try not to use my data too much just because it costs money. Like you pay per gigabyte kind of situation. So I would just like read, start my morning that way, and then usually walk to the clinic that was in my community. And then I was working out of the dispensary over there. Sometimes I would go into the art department, which is the antiretroviral medications for HIV patients.
Yeah.
So that's where they would talk to the nurse, get their refills. So sometimes I would help out in there as well.
Okay.
And then I would just go home, and on my way home I'd pick up my little host siblings from preschool.
Got it.
Play with them for a little bit, and then I was also working on medical school applications while I was over there. And so that consisted of a lot of like the rest of my days pretty much.
So it was, from what I'm listening to, it's a very humbling yet fulfilling experience.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you felt like you were getting what you wanted out of the experience even early on when you got there.
Yeah. Everything was so new, like, and I was very like restless, I think, at the beginning because going from like a city like Miami, which there's always something to do, and like I was able to drive to places. Like here, I'm in a community that's 30 minutes away driving from, a normal, like a tar road, and there's not much happening in the community. So you really have to like keep yourself busy. Yeah. And the way Peace Corps is set up is your experience is what you make of it.
Right.
They really put you in these communities with like, all right, here you go. Like, and that's it. And so, of course, if you reach out or like need something, you can call and talk to people. But once you're in your community, the work you do is entirely up to you. How you choose to approach different problems, how you choose to approach your everyday is up to you. So I think it was a little challenging at first because I was like, oh my gosh, there's really nothing to do. I need to figure something out. And then also like trying to bond with people and make your home that is going to be your home for the rest of the time there.
And you spent 2 years?
Year and a half.
Year and a half.
So it's a 2-year mission. I had to leave early regarding school like stuff, but yeah. So.
And did you get emotionally attached to kids or adults or you know?
So when I left, it was a really like emotionally heavy day, a few days, because they became like my family. And then I was not only leaving my community, but I was also leaving my Peace Corps friends you go through so many like trials and tribulations with these people. So it really bonds you in a way that like you don't normally bond with people, I think, because you're really just going, like, we were going full 180 from what we were experiencing in the States. So I think it really bonds people. And because Eswatini was such a small country, I was able to see some of them almost every week. So it was
So small country, you would say like Broward, Miami-Dade, Palm Beach County, or Florida, or Georgia?
It's like, you could drive across Eswatini, I think, in like 2.5 hours.
Okay. All right.
And so it was really small, and because I didn't have a car, we weren't allowed to like operate motorized vehicles. So we would use public transportation, and it was also one of the things that I did miss, actually. Like, of course, it was definitely an interesting way that they did it. I had never seen it done that way before, but it's not like how public transportation works in the States, but compared to Miami, that has a really poor public transportation system.
I agree, 100%.
I loved it. You could get anywhere in the country.
How though? What system did they have?
So it's 15-seater minivans or buses, but I didn't have buses that came to my community.
Okay.
And so it was a 15-seater minivan that had an end point and a beginning point.
Okay.
And everywhere in between was depending on who was in the bus or who wanted to get on.
Oh, so it's like if my stop is along this main road,
then I just need to tell them stop. They stop and you get out.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So I had they're called Kumbis. I would have the Kumbi that would basically ride past my house. I could see it from my window, do like a turn, and then come back. So I knew if I saw it going this way,
you know it's going to turn around.
I was like, I have 15 minutes, and then I can stand in front of my home.
And you just wave them down?
You wave them down like that. They stop, and they ask you where you're going. You can tell them. I was always going to town most of the time, so it was Manzini, which was their endpoint. That's like the central hub of a lot of the, like, it's like the bus rank is there, the biggest one. And bigger communities have bus ranks, which is just where they like sit and wait for it to be filled up and then leave to different areas.
Yeah.
But Manzini had the biggest one, so I would always go there. And if I were to stop along the way, I would just tell them stage, would just stop, and they would just pull over and drop you out. So it was funny the first time when I went in one, because I was like, how is this? Where does he know where I'm going? Where do I know?
Is it safe to get in here? You know?
And so they're packing in so many people and so many like belongings in these cars too, that you really have to get like comfortable with being very close to people.
Yes.
And also just being like handed things. Like I was handed a chicken one day while I was on there, because there's just, you try to make, it is incredible how much they can fit in these cars. And so it was just, it became fun, I think.
So were there any moments that really hurt you to see what was going on and you go, you know what, this is really sad, but you're doing the best you can to help? But were there any moments during your tenure there that happened?
Yeah. Especially working with like kids living with HIV. I think it's like, when I was doing research, it was with cells. Like I didn't like see the physical implications of it. And when it's kids, it's more like, it's just really, it's hard to see, especially because a lot of they just have such big dreams too, that it's like coming from small communities and like that have a lack of resources a lot of the time. And also they're dealing with HIV, which is like really, which is really hard at times to be like, to navigate, you know, and to like feel like they can navigate it, you know? And so, and then growing up, going through puberty and like all of that stuff, and I don't know, just having the right resources. But my clinic, we had a teen club, which is a support group for them, and they loved it. So it was already put in place while I was over there. And
so based on what you're saying, there's a high rate of HIV even among kids.
Well, it's usually kids that are born with it. Right. So if it's the mother who doesn't know that she has HIV, and then it gets like mother to child transmission.
Okay.
Or if they didn't take the proper medication needed during pregnancy, it also gets transmitted to the child. And that's mostly what happens. But they have been like successful in lowering the rate of HIV in the country. So there was like a 95 goal. 95% of people who have it know that they have it. I think my memory is failing me. 95 people who have it are taking medication. And then, so it was that kind of situation. And so they're able to to have that now, which is a really good success.
And do you feel that the Peace Corps truly made an impact, or the work that they're doing is just nowhere near enough to make an impact on that small country?
I think it's hard to say because they really push for sustainability and sustainable projects. And so it did feel like the projects themselves may not have as much of an impact as I thought going in.
Right.
But a huge part of Peace Corps is also cultural exchange.
Got it.
And so going into my community, I met a few people that had previous experiences with like other Peace Corps volunteers that were in the country even years ago. And they have such like a good image of people who are coming in and helping in Peace Corps. So I think that, I mean, in that sense, I think it's really great that, you know, people are coming in and being able to have these meaningful connections with people that last over years. And I know that the host brother so the previous Peace Corps volunteer that was at my home before me years prior, he still talks to his host family. And I also still talk to mine, even though I'm not over there. So in that sense, I think it's great because you really bond with so many people. And it's obviously hard work to keep in touch, especially when you're so far away, time difference, things like that. But if you put in the effort to keep in contact, it's great.
And they're going to be part of your life forever.
Yeah.
Right.
So, and I know like we have a 3-month training prior to going into your communities where you're really just getting a bunch of information. And so we were also staying with a host family during that period. And that host family, both of them were really important to me. That host family was my first glimpse into like what it would be like. And they were like my family away from home. And so when my mom came to visit me, actually, she visited them. And one of their sons is studying in Florida, so my mom actually talks to him sometimes. So it's funny how our worlds have kind of mixed a little bit, and I love it.
That is amazing. Well, you've already accomplished more than most people will do in their entire lives. What's next? What's next for you?
Hopefully medical school.
Yeah.
I really hope so. But if I have the availability and the time to be able to do another work exchange or travel, I'm definitely going to try and do that. So I think after January, I'll be able to maybe leave again, but I'm not entirely sure. So we'll see. Fingers crossed that I will. And yeah. So
what kind of medicine do you want to practice?
I'm not sure.
You'd be a chiropractor like your dad.
Like
your dad is super cool, by the way. A good friend of mine, a Rotarian. He always keeps everybody smiling.
Yeah, he keeps everyone updated too. Apparently, when I came back, everyone knew about everything. So
yes. A lot of happy dollars for Sasha.
But we'll see. I think I don't want to put too much thought into it, just because when I went into college, I wanted to do something, you know, very, very different than what I came out with. So I think I'm like letting it go, and I'm like, all right, like I trust that wherever I'm meant to be, it will happen that way. And I think there's a lot of professions that I probably didn't even see myself in, that after doing certain like rotations and things like that I'll be able to like be like, okay, like I really visualize myself here, and I think I can see myself doing well here.
But given your experience abroad and studying medicine here, do you ever see yourself like practicing abroad?
Absolutely. After doing Peace Corps, I think that I would love, well, if it works out the way I want to, I would love to do Doctors Without Borders.
Oh, cool.
And have that be kind of working abroad. They do many different programs throughout the world, and so, and I had originally heard about them when I lived in France originally, because it's a French organization initially, and so that's where I had heard about it. I was like, oh my gosh, that's really cool. I wish they had something like that for like research. And then little did I know I would get into medicine. So it worked out for me in the long run. But it's really great what they do. So I would hope to do something similar to that.
So for anyone that's out there that's, you know, getting ready to graduate high school, what advice would you give them in terms of, you know, self-fulfillment and moving through? Because we live in this routine, and there are certain standards that even our parents put on us, you know, high school, college, get a master's, go work.
I think it would just for the best advice I would have is just like don't be afraid to take detours.
Yeah.
Because ultimately, like I know when I graduated college, the big stress with leaving the Peace Corps was that, oh my gosh, I'm going to be out of school, it's going to be a total of 3 gap years, I'm going to be the oldest one there. And it was just leaving everything and putting it on pause is what it felt like. But now that I've done it and will hopefully continue to do that until medical school, it's so freeing. Like you get such a different perspective and super fulfilling. And so I would say just don't be afraid of detours. Because ultimately, like if you have a goal, if you have a passion, you're going to end at that goal and that passion. You'll just have a lot more perspective at the end of the day, and you'll be a lot more fulfilled with what you've done. And just learn a lot.
Yeah, listening to what we've talked about today, for me, it's easy to understand that experience far outweighs whatever monetary, whatever money you can make.
Yeah.
Because normally kids, young adults, they're looking at a dollar figure. What kind of salary can I make? And what is the quickest path there? But what you've told me, that experience far outweighs any amount of money that somebody's going to pay you.
Yeah. And I was still able to, so I had saved up a little bit before because I knew that I would want to travel while I was over there.
Yeah. So
that did help, having that. But I think if I were to take a gap year between college and medical school and work, I'm positive that it would have not been the same experience going into medical school that I would have now.
That is very cool.
And it's really great to be able to know that while I'm in that field, that at least I'll be able to bring in different perspectives that I didn't have before.
I think anybody you talk to, there's so much that conversation can go into because you've got so much experience already through your travels through the world. So
and especially in the States, there are a lot of people who want to seek out medical attention that also deal with language barriers. Having dealt with that myself now, it's I can see where they're coming from, and I think it gives a good start to certain conversations. So, and it's really important. It's already scary going into hospitals and seeing doctors. So if there's any way that you can make that less daunting, then I think that's great.
Well, Sasha, I want to thank you for the time you've given us today. You have given our audience much needed hope and inspiration because a lot of people didn't really understand what it means to be part of the Peace Corps and also, moving to France and coming back. Yeah. So really proud of the things that you've done.
Thank you so much.
I gotta give Phil a big hug because he's raised an excellent daughter.
Thank you so much.
So please come back and join us soon,
of course.
We'd love to have you back.
Thank you for having me.
We can follow all of the cool things that you're doing in life, okay?
Of course, yeah.
All right, guys, don't forget to like and subscribe, Talk Visual 305. Thank you, Sasha Mazure. We will see you guys next time. Take care.